Hello and welcome to the ROKER RAPPORT podcast. I'm your host Chris Cam, and this week we have a SAFC Ladies, I want to call it a special, we'll go with a special edition. We've got SAFC Ladies player Grace McCatty with us. How are you doing, Grace?
Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, really good.
Fantastic. The point of this podcast is really we're going to introduce as many people as we can to the ladies team because this season should be an exciting one. So firstly, yourself, Grace, what is your aspiration for this season? What are we going to achieve as a club?
Yeah, of course. I think I've only obviously been at the club now, coming into my second season, but I think we're going to be quite open this year that our aspiration for 2019-2020 is to get promoted. I think anything less, we can openly say will be, I don't want to say a failure, but a disappointment, or at least we haven't reached what we set out to do. So yeah, we're very open. I suppose like by saying that, you do put yourself under the firing line, but I think we are going to be open in saying that we are going for promotion this year, nothing less. And that is our overall aim, is to get the club back to where it once was.
Fantastic. Do what Blackburn did last season and just walk it.
To be fair, credit to Blackburn last year. They dominated that league, and I think there's nothing saying that now we've got a really good foundation that we can't do the same this year. So hopefully some really good games for fans to come and watch and some really good results to follow. But yeah, our plan is to, whether we walk it or not, is at least just win the league at the end of it.
So you mentioned it's your second year here now.
Yeah.
Give us a little bit of a background. So where did you start? How's your career got to this point now?
Yes, I think as probably most people can tell by the accent, I'm not a northerner. Don't have any northeast twang just yet. So yeah, I'm from Gloucester originally. So I spent, prior to coming up to the northeast, spent pretty much most of my career in and around the Gloucester, Bristol area. So as with most players, spent kind of my formative years playing for a local club, like a local team, until I was 16, and then opted to go to college to study A-levels alongside playing for a football academy, and that was in Bristol because they had links with what was Bristol Academy at that time, now Bristol City Women. Then spent 10 years there, so progressed through kind of from the academy into the first team, and then spent pretty much the bulk of my career at that club, which was great because I think for me as a player, I got to experience it from literally being in the academy right through to playing the highs of kind of Champions League, FA Cup finals. So you've seen like the real involvement of the game and been part of that. Yeah, and about 3 years ago, I kind of just fancied a change. I think great what had been achieved so far, and I think I'm so thankful for the memories I had at Bristol and the experience I went through there, but I wanted something different. I wanted not just a different footballing experience, but a different life experience, like somewhere different to live. Like the UK is not huge, but there's a heck of a lot of I haven't seen, which is crazy. So yeah, decided to move up to Durham and obviously joined them initially. Unfortunately got injured at that time, tore my ACL. So then spent kind of the next year and a half rehabbing, which is never ideal when you just arrived in a new place. And then start of last season, just had a conversation with Mel, obviously who's the manager, and just said, look, just come out from injury. Like, I want to play regularly, want to enjoy football again. And like, I believe in what Sunderland are doing, having like been part of the same leagues that they have been in, kind of, I don't want to say in a heyday, but when they were in kind of WSL on the top tier, I knew what the club stood for. And I said to her, I would love to play a part in that, in getting the club back to where we rightfully think it belongs.
So that's interesting. So from like a Sunderland fans' point of view, I always find the ladies' team is a real point of frustration in the fact that we're allowed to sort of fall away, when the leagues were reformed, and I know a few people feel the same way. So for you, what was it like seeing a club, it happened with Yeovil Town as well, sort of struggle to hit that barrier that they needed to pass and have to fall down the leagues and start again almost? Yeah,
and I think I can probably speak quite candidly about it in a sense of, I love the women's game, like spent my whole life. I think if I can't say how old I am, well I can, but like I've spent the last 25 years playing football, and the game has gone through a ridiculous involvement in that time, which is fantastic. Like, it's incredible to see the Women's World Cup and what can be achieved by the country because the resources are put behind it. But then that also comes with a level of frustration when you look at the story of Sunderland, you look at Yeovil, you look at Doncaster Rovers, teams that once were in the pinnacle of the game, were competing rightfully so on the pitch and doing well, demoted for non-footballing reasons. And I think that's not to point the finger at anyone in terms of saying it's your fault or it's the FA's fault, but it's to say that more needs to be done. Yeah, great the game's growing, great we're getting to that level where players are full-time professional, but more support needs to be offered so that one simple financial decision doesn't affect a club's future. Because I remember sitting watching the World Cup this year, and it's all over Twitter, like the number of Sunderland produced players in that squad just shouts the incredible investment this club has made in the women's game, and as a result hear these players. So I think for me, playing against Sunderland, like when I was at Bristol, always a good team, always one of the most competitive teams, to then see them be demoted for something that the players had no control over was like quite devastating. And I've known Mel for a few years just through the footballing kind of world, and I said to her, look, I believe the club belongs to the top tier. Based on the pitch stuff, the club have got every right to be there. Right now, we've got to build back up to get there and hope that the off the pitch stuff follows to allow us to do that.
Mm-hmm. So the pinnacle of sort of your career so far at Bristol, Champions League has to be the place you go to. Yeah. What was for you the moment where you thought like, wow, this is it. This is like football. Like,
and it was mad because I think when the FA brought in the Women's Super League, which is a top tier in 2011. It was kind of, everyone's like a bit unsure what it's going to look like. And it's a bit like, this is a bit different playing in the summer. And I think, over the time, having then Bristol, probably similar to the likes of Yeovil, that, I can say nicely, like no one knew who we were. Like we were an independent club. We had players that didn't play for England and people were like, well, who are they? And suddenly, as a team, we evolved and generated or developed this culture that suddenly we were competing on the top level. And like I said, obviously as a result of that, we got to 2 FA Cup finals, sadly lost both of them, but it's always nice to have a runners-up medal. And then as a result of that, because of the ruling at the time, we then qualified for the Champions League and been in 2 campaigns. And I think when you do that and you get to play on the European stage and you get to play the likes of Barcelona, I think that's when you think, oh wow, like this is what it's about. And I think when you put the name like Bristol against Barcelona in the same sentence, it's a bit like, that's a little bit weird. And everyone's like, I remember seeing on BBC Sport like Bristol beats Barcelona, and you would never see those 2 teams match together in the men's game. Yeah. But that just highlights, I think, how far the women's game is growing in the UK. And also the teams that can be there, that you don't have to be a Man City or an Arsenal or a Liverpool. You don't have to be kind of the top 4 men's club and their equivalent women's team, that you can be a Birmingham City. And you can be kind of, I don't want to say smaller teams, but the teams that maybe don't dominate the men's game, there's nothing saying they can't do that in the women's game. Mm-hmm. So I think, that was pretty incredible when we went to Barcelona. We didn't play in the new camp, we played in the stadium next door to it. And I think, that whole atmosphere, you're thinking, God, like this is why you do what you do. This is why you put in all those hours to come and experience kind of the stage like that. So that was pretty incredible. And to go on to win 1-0 away from home and then draw 1-0 at home was probably 2 of the best games I played in. So
am I right in saying you made it the furthest of all the English teams in the competition?
Yeah. Obviously that's changed now, but at that time we were the last English team in it. Unfortunately, we lost in the quarterfinals against FFC Frankfurt quite heavily, so credits them, but they went on to win.
Win it, yeah. So
it's always nice to say, like, if you lose, you've lost against the eventual winners. But like, incredible experience. And I think, whenever we speak about the Bristol days, I think, they're probably the 2 pinnacles of both the Champions Leagues.
It's interesting as well, because obviously that success led to Mark Sampson, his appointment at England.
Yeah.
What was that like for you, seeing his England career pan out? Because obviously it ended in not the best kind of way, unfortunately.
I think it was incredible for Mark. I think it's strange because we viewed Mark as obviously our manager, but our friend, because he's not that much older than me. And it's slightly bizarre that your ex-manager's now managing the England team and you're like, wow, he's going to World Cup. But I think despite how it ended, I don't think anyone can ever take away how much he developed and evolved that team. And he very much applied the principles that we operated under at Bristol around like having a family culture and valuing people over players. So I'm going to treat you as a person rather than you're just a footballer, and if you can't do it, I'm going to do it and get someone else. I think that culture is what led to our success at Bristol. And I think in turn, that's probably what led to England at that time going from where they were to getting a bronze medal, which to date is the biggest achievement they've ever achieved on the national stage. So I think incredible for him. I think you look at the squad from Bristol at the time, they're all now playing for Women's Super League clubs, playing full time, both in the UK and across Europe. So I think similar to what Sunderland done in terms of producing players, Bristol done exactly the same at the time. And then also with their manager, obviously Mark went on to get obviously the success he deserves, I think, at national level. Obviously, shame to see how it ended, but I think that doesn't take away from the coach he is and the manager is and the qualities he brought to the game. And if it wasn't for him, Bristol would have never got to where they were from kind of an independent club to being in the Champions League. So, I think there was an incredible kind of period for us down in the south. And my hope is that we can kind of bring some kind of level of success up here as well.
So how does that culture you mentioned in Bristol, how does that compare with Sunderland? What's it like culture-wise? Because I believe you're right in saying you are training at the academy, very much ingrained with the rest of the club.
Yeah.
So how does that compare? Because obviously it goes from being a college team to a football club.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and I think when I'd obviously joined Sunderland last year, just gone through a huge period of change. Like for those who obviously listening, we obviously went from what was the tier 1 top tier to be demoted to, for I'm assuming everyone knows, obviously non-footballing reasons, and that led to a lot of players leaving. And ultimately a player has to do what's best for them, and no one blames them for that. So I think it was a case of last year the club had to rebuild from scratch. Not completely, obviously, still had all the great staff in place, but it was, right now we need to get players in, we need to develop how we're going to play, what we want to do and build up. So for those who come just now, we've got a really young team. I am the oldest. I think the youngest is 13 years younger than me. It says how old I am. And it's a bit mad to be like, oh, you're 13 years younger. But I think we were like, we need to build again. So last year was kind of laying those foundations, getting the younger players coming through, understanding how we as a club want to play, the formations we're going to adopt, the culture we're going to have as a team on and off the pitch. And, you know, we'd have loved to got promoted last year, but credit to Blackburn, they deserved it. And you can't fault them for that. So I think now we've got those foundations in place. This year, it's now about building on that and going to perform the best we can do. So I think it's great having Mel, obviously having been here when the club was in Women's Super League to where they are now is great, because she's carried that kind of club culture through, and she's been around Sunderland for years. So obviously she knows what it was like as a player and now as a coach. And it's great that we're back at the academy, because it's nice, obviously, being around, seeing the younger academy boys training and having that one club approach, because I think ultimately all you end up ever doing is just being a team that wears a kit. Whereas obviously being at the academy now and I know the club are doing it, developing stronger links with the men's side, but the wider club will hopefully mean that like moving forward, it is that bigger one club, one badge approach, which I think will only benefit us on the pitch, and it will only benefit the wider footballing community as well.
Absolutely, because when you see things like the pre-season, the kit launches, everyone was sort of involved in that, which is good to see. When it comes to coaching wise, do you ever get any sort of mix in with different teams? I know it doesn't really work like that where you just all train together, but do you ever get like share time with people and share sort of experience and knowledge with people?
Yeah, so during pre-season we were training earlier to make the most of the light, and as we come towards the end of our pre-season, the academy boys started training like alongside us. So obviously being outside, you've got a fair amount of pitches, so they had one and we would have one. But obviously now with the weather changing, it's getting towards winter, we've now moved back to training inside the barn. So obviously they finish, and just as they finish, we then start. So it's nice because you do get to see that the boys come through. I think obviously I can't really comment on what it was like prior to when I joined the club, but I know if you spoke to like the existing players like Kira, Ramshaw and Molly, I think it is still quite different to what it once was, but we are definitely moving in the right direction, which can only be positive for all.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for playing wise on the pitch, you've got to see your team set up. Your position, are you obviously oldest player in the squad? Do you see yourself as more of a leader? Are you nurturing younger players and telling people what to do, or what's your approach? I
would like to always think like I lead by example. Like did do at Bristol, both when I was captain and not captain, just as an all team member, because ultimately I think as a player, obviously I want to do the best I can individually, but I at my age also want to like invest and support like the next generation coming through, because ultimately I would love to say I'm going to play for another 10 years, probably not going to, but those players come through, the 16, 17 year olds that we've just signed from our kind of youth side are incredible players, and they're going to go on to be kind of the bedrock of the team. So for me, I like to think I lead by example, but also try and really support those younger players coming through, because they've just gone from 16 years old playing youth football to suddenly playing women's football, where they could face anyone from a 60-year-old to probably through to like a 35-year-old. So for them, it's a big change physically and also in terms of the speed of the game. So for me, playing centre half is quite nice because I get to see the whole pitch from the back forwards. And it means that I can hopefully share my experiences, both in terms of what I personally do, but also in terms of trying to lead the rest of the team. Absolutely. So first game of the season. Yep. Days away now. West Brom, confident? Yeah, to be fair, it's a hard one because West Brom have just got promoted. So I think on paper you say, well, Sunderland should win because they finished pretty much a division higher and where we did in terms of second. But I think you can never underestimate anyone in this league. There are a lot of teams, i.e. we only really know the northern part. West Brom is pushing the boundaries of north in terms of location. So it's hard to know kind of where they fare and against other people we've played. So I think in terms of us, we're confident. I think we focus on what we've done and how pre-season has gone, and we focus on our game and we execute that well. I have no doubt we'll walk away with 3 points, but we have to make sure we stick to the game plan and we go out and do what we've spent the last 6 to 8 weeks practicing on. So hard to know what West Brom are going to be like, but I think it's a good challenge for us to start and kind of get the ball rolling. Yeah, you sort of touched on it there, but how do you prepare for a team? Is it like, so obviously men's game, a lot is made of scout reports and technology and all this stuff. How do you prepare for a game? Is it about analysing as much as you can of your opponents? Because obviously teams like West Brom, not going to be a lot of film knocking about. Or is it very much just taking care of yourself, ensuring that you know what you're doing and your house is in order? Yeah, I think it's a bit of both. We do it'd be naive not to utilise any footage that's out there in terms of the other team and what they're doing. So I think where possible, we will try and get information on the other team, whether that's by going out and watching games, or we've also got a team of staff who can go and do that, or looking at footage. So if someone films the game this weekend, we'll obviously have more footage for the second time we face them. But I think given this early in the season, especially with a team like West Brom, we know a little about them. I think it's about getting ourselves in order, knowing what we're going to do, what's our game plan, in possession, out of possession, when we don't have the ball, and how we're going to execute that. And then depending on the certain challenges we face, knowing on the pitch what their roles and responsibilities are. And that will take time. I think if you look at us last season, it took us a few games to get into it. And that's like any season, you kind of grow into it, and the results you hope will come from the start, but you're going to grow into it. So I think for us, it's about focusing on what we can do this weekend, going out and executing that the best we can, and then spending that next week learning from what went well, great, let's continue that. But probably what didn't go so well, how can we adapt that and develop that better, so that when we face, obviously, Newcastle in the League Cup, we're, one better. So, I think for now, it's pretty much focusing on what we can do. But where possible, utilising the footage that's out there, which I like to say, like the men's game, there is limited to kind of shape what we do.
We'll come back to the Newcastle
game. We'll come back to it.
So in terms of, without giving away how you're going to play the weekend, just in case there are any West Brom scouts listening, what is the philosophy? Is it very much possession based? Are you trying to play out from the back? Are you going to be lumping the ball forwards? Target man? What's the...
Yeah, I think there will be like one dominant way we play, and I think for us, we want to retain possession. The only way we're going to score goals is by keeping the ball. Obviously, the extent to which you can do that will depend on what opposition you play. If we play against a team who presses from the front, it's then about players being brave to still want to get on the ball. There will be the odd time you have to go long, but I think for us as a team, it's about, can we build possession? Can we control the ball when we have it? Can we be patient until we score? The more we have the ball, the more likely we are to score. And I think if you look at us last season, there were some games where we dominated possession. Maybe we didn't have the end product, but dominated possession. Whereas other games, we probably didn't trust ourselves enough, and we did kind of, as you said, like lump it and go along a bit. And it's not pretty to see, and it doesn't really lead to how we want to play, because ultimately, whilst we're building to try and win the league this year, we're also building to where we ultimately want to be. And the more we can do the right things now, the easier and the more kind of innate it will be when we come to hopefully playing in the Women's Championship and obviously one day onto Super League. So, for us, I think it's about that possession-based game. Can we keep the ball? Can we be patient in possession? And then I think ultimately from that, it's about players going out and expressing themselves. Don't get me wrong, there is a time where you probably do have to just kick the ball wrong and protect your lines. But for us, it's about that kind of being patient in possession.
Absolutely. So, Newcastle then.
Yeah.
Obviously, the single most important game on a Sunderland calendar.
Yeah.
Especially in the men's game. In the women's game, is there as much rivalry? Is there as much derby, sort of local derby? Because obviously a lot of it comes from history and games played in the past. I feel like this is maybe the first time the two sides have met in a competitive fixture.
Yeah, to fair, and again, excuse my not ignorance, but I don't know huge amounts about the history, but I think regardless of levels they play at, there will without a doubt be some kind of level of rivalry. Like the women's football community is quite a close community. Like girls from around this area, so those like Kira who grew up in Sunderland will know a lot of the Newcastle players, as will I probably, because paths cross and players switch teams. So I think beyond obviously the badge, like there will be rivalry in a sense that people just know each other and you want to go out and obviously come away and be the better team on the day. But I think it's great that then you add the badges to it, the Newcastle Sunderland aspect. It then, like you said, comes with a level of history, but it will give you the game a bit of spark. Not I don't say spark about it, but it will definitely add a bit of fire to the game, because even if you've never watched women's football, even if you're not a women's football fan, to come and watch a derby like that, I can promise you, it will be a great game just because of the occasion of it. Obviously, them being in the lower leagues, I think obviously they'll go into treat them themselves like an underdog, and they will without a doubt want to get one over on us. But I think for us, we just have to focus on it like any other game, but also just enjoy the occasion, because it's not very often, particularly in a women's game, where we get a North East derby like that. So it'll be definitely something we enjoy.
Could be a great opportunity to really announce yourselves to the rest of the Sunderland fan base.
Yeah.
Who aren't as sort of paying much attention to this team. Cause...
Yeah, definitely, because that's the thing, isn't it? I think ultimately, if you don't follow women's football, and I get it, you've got no reason to go and watch it, because if it's not your interest, you're not going to. But sometimes all you need is, it's a local derby. If you're a Sunderland fan, you probably hate Newcastle just as a club as a whole. Why would you not want to come and watch the game? So I think, fantastic occasion for us. And fingers crossed we can get some fans who maybe not have previously watched it down to the game, because it will be a good game. And I think if you want a taste of a North East derby for the women's game, yeah, definitely come and watch that one.
Yeah, possibly the only one we'll have this season. You know?
Yeah,
so it's,
yeah,
you've
possibly,
got to take advantage of it. Going back to sort of your career then.
Yeah.
I want to pick out a couple of sort of key moments. You mentioned the FA Cup finals.
Yes.
So you don't want to dwell on them too much if you don't want to. I think the first final was against Arsenal.
Yeah.
And that's the one where I first heard of Brighton.
Okay.
And was like hearing about this like story about this team, which are based in a college, and it's all this like overachieving sort of underdog story.
Yeah.
You came up in that game against Steph Horton as Arsenal captain. And obviously she's one of the poster girls of the World Cup and Sunderland Lass as well. So everybody's a big supporter of hers. What was it like playing against her at that stage in her career? And obviously the Arsenal team at that time were obviously superstars.
Yeah.
What was it like playing against that level of player? And do you think that the top level of women's football now is actually even a step higher than it was?
Yes, I think I remember going into the game. So obviously we two finals played Arsenal, both of them, and at that time Arsenal, and it's great to see them now back to kind of what they once were, because they were dominating the women's game, rightfully so. And like you said, they had the likes of people like Steph and in the team, and I think at the time they were the best team in England without a doubt. This was prior to the days of like Man City coming in with their investment and Chelsea, etc. So I think for us, it's a really hard one, because you don't want to play the game for the occasion, but you're also stupid not to enjoy it for it. As a player, to get to an FA Cup final, whether you're men, women's, youth, like the FA Cup comes with some kind of history that it is just like one of the greatest competitions, because you can have that dream of being the non-league team that suddenly comes up against the Premier League team, and that's the magic of the cup as such. I think for us, it was incredible. I remember the journey getting to the final, in terms of like, we won the quarter final, and we're like, oh God, like we're one game away now, and then you win the semi, and then you're like, wow, we're actually in a final now. And it is that balance between like, you want to go out and win, like without a doubt we went in it to win it, but we also appreciated that we were never on paper going to win it, and we were the underdogs, and I'd have loved the underdogs to win that day and overcome. But I think for us it was about doing the best we could, but like enjoying the occasion, because they are far and few between in a player's career. Like I look back now at my age and think, do you know, would I ever get a chance to play an FA Cup final again? I'd love to, but given the way the game's evolved and it developed, the chances are slim. You never know, we could go on a Worldie Cup run this year. But I think at that time it was incredible to be able to play not only in an FA Cup final, but against, like you said, the team of Arsenal at that time, which loads of those players now have gone on to be like domineering stars for their equivalent nation.
I mean, Alex Scott, Rachel Young,
and it's been incredible. Some real legends of the women's game. I remember growing up watching England women play, and a lot of them were playing for their Wizards at the time. So it's really bizarre to then think 10 years ago, I was just a kid watching the Euro 2005 on TV, and here I am now playing against half of those players. So I think, it's this really like mismatch between, I once was a fan, I used to like idolise you, now I'm going to play against you. So that goes out the window, because ultimately I want to be the better footballer. And like I said, back to Steph, I think at that time, obviously playing for what was the best club in England. And I remember when she moved to Man City, everyone was like, oh, that's really weird. Like, why would you leave Arsenal at the time, who were the domineering team? But obviously rightfully so, because she had obviously information about how they were going to invest in the game and develop, and obviously it's been a great move for her. So I think, like really great occasion. Would have loved to have won, but it's not every day you can say you play in 2 FA Cup finals.
I was going to say, still time.
It's still time, That
Worldie Cup run will be quite something, actually.
I know,
So, FA Cup being one thing, cup competitions for Sunderland sort of this season, bothered, or is it going to be something that you actually focus a lot of energy on?
I think
like any other game.
I think, well, like I said, and we're open for the start. Like, we want to win the league this year. Like, promotion is our number one goal. That's not to say we're going to just forget about the cup run, because ultimately I think that's another great thing that one can build momentum, and 2 can help us really just get going, because ultimately there's nothing worse to go in like league game and then cup and then change everything you've done for the previous 3 games, because ultimately we want to build some momentum. We want to get better game on game. So I think whether that is cup or league, we'll treat it the same. I would love to have a great cup run. There's nothing saying that we can't go on and do really well. And I think beyond that, it's a great opportunity to play teams in the high level, play teams obviously in the Women's Super League and Women's Championship, and it gives us a good marker of where we're at. So obviously in pre-season we did play against Sheffield, who are the league above, and I think it was great to be like, right, this is where we're at, this is maybe where we need to get a little bit better at, and it's a good chance for that reflection. So I think cup game, we'll treat them like any other game. We want to go out and win it. I think that's what we're going to treat every single game like this year. But I would love to do well in the cup and get a chance to play like a higher level opposition, because it's a good marker in terms of where we want to be, but also gets us to identify, right, great, we're not far away here, but we maybe need to improve in these areas. So I'd love a good FA Cup run. Last year wasn't so good. I think we got knocked out in the first round we were in. But yeah, fingers crossed we can go a little bit better this year.
So you mentioned the pre-season there. It was a bit of a, glance over the results, there's a lot of big numbers and then little numbers next to them.
Yeah.
So what was that like? Because it must get to a point you're sort of trying to prepare. You go 7-0 up and you start to maybe take the foot off the gas a bit.
Yeah, I think, and it's not just for us. One of the hardest things in the women's game is getting rightly matched pre-season fixtures. Unfortunately, at the moment, we don't have the privilege of men's game where we can just go and fly to Europe and play different teams. I'd love that, but I think at the moment, we're not quite at that place. So we have to utilise one local opposition and like credit to some of the teams in the lower leagues, because they came and they gave us a really good match, and for us it was a really important chance to get minutes. I think take the score away, it's always nice to think we won most of them, but I think for us it was all about the performance, how are we executing ourselves, how are we putting into practice that stuff we've done in training. Are we playing to the right formation? Are we executing the game plan right? So I think you can look back at the results and think 12-0, like wow. But I think you have to take that with a pinch of salt, because we're not looking at the result and saying, if we won 12-0, for us it's an important 90 minutes that players have got under their belts. It's a good opportunity to go out and try different systems of play, different formations, and to figure out kind of where our strengths lie and what players work well together. We've got quite a big squad this year. I think 22 players in total, which means there's potentially 22 different kind of on the pitch relationships you're going to build. So it's about figuring out how you play with certain players who complement each other better. So I think for pre-season, whilst the result is always great, it's good to have that challenge and that space to kind of try those different things, which I think will put us in really good stead for the season. So
of those 22, you don't have to answer this if it's going to harm your squad in the change room or anything like that. Which of those players would you say, if you're going to come and watch Sunderland, come and watch it, because she's amazing. She's going to be the one who excites everybody on the pitch.
No, I think we've got a really good mix this year. Like I mentioned before, you've got the likes of obviously Kira Ramshaw, who is Sunderland through and through, like a die-hard Sunderland girl. And if anyone knows the club, it's her. Like she knows in and out. She loves in and out. Probably could have easily gone a sign for any other Women's Super League team. Obviously, when Sunderland unfortunately got demoted 2 divisions. But she believes in what the club are doing. She believes in what Mel and the staff are doing. And she's obviously stayed because for her, it's about getting her club back to where it belongs. So I think for anyone who wants to see someone who loves a team in and out and that reflects in the way they play, I think, without a doubt, Kira's one to watch. And I think beyond that, we've got a really good mix. There are some really exciting younger players coming through. You'd also see from our signings, we've signed a number of our RTC girls, so Jess Brown and Neve, both who are now way of England in their respective age groups. But 2 really exciting young talent, and I joke about being 13 years older, but which makes me feel really old. But it's incredible that as a 16-year-old they can come into a team of the likes of people like Kira and Molly who have got WSL1 experience, and I say older players like me, and they just fit in naturally, aren't fazed by, I don't want to say the occasion, but aren't fazed by the fact that it's suddenly senior football and you're playing on a national level. And I think they're definitely, the younger players coming through are definitely players to watch, because they excite me playing with them, and they're definitely going to go on to be real pivotal players in this team. So really nice mix. But they're probably the ones. Not saying no one else isn't one to watch, because I could go through the whole team. But I think obviously people like Kira and Molly who've been here a while, I think still performing at that level, and definitely younger players coming through.
Fantastic. What about Mel, head coach? How's her impact felt? Is she very much one of the players type of player that's very friendly, or is she very much you got to knock on the door before you come in and speak to her?
I think Mel's got a really good balance, a bit of both. My stance, I coach myself, is that as a coach, obviously you want players to perform on the pitch, but you ultimately have to treat them as people as well, because also if you don't take time getting to know your players as people, you're not going to understand what makes them tick, or when they're having a bad day, or how they deal with criticism and feedback. So I think Mel has spent that time getting to know players, getting to understand them in terms of how do I deal with this player? How do I get the best out of them? Which then means that she's able to get the best out of us on the pitch. So I think, a bit of both. I've got no qualms if I needed to speak to Mel about something, going and knocking on a door or giving her a call. So I think it's great that she's created that kind of open communication line that anyone can approach her about anything. And if they're unsure, go and ask her questions. She's not scared to say, this is why I've made a decision, or this is why I've gone for that. So I think that's great, because it gives players, one, that reassurance, but 2, they honestly know where they're at and what's needed of them, and maybe why they're not playing and someone else has been selected. It's good, because I think as a footballer, there's nothing worse than going away from a game and mulling over someone and starting to question why something's happened. you can just go and ask Mel and she'll give you those answers. So I think it's great because while she still have those like open lines of communication and that kind of really positive rapport, like when she wants something, she will tell you and she'll demand the best from us. And that's not in a harsh way, but that's because she wants the club to be as good as it can be. And she and obviously the other staff are investing so much time into it that what we do on a pitch is a reflection on them. So I think, it's really good because you have that both balance, that you can have that friendly, informal conversation if something's bothering you, or if you're not sure, you have some queries around, well, why are we playing this formation? I don't think that's right. But also when she wants something from you, like she'll tell you. And that's great because I think then it gets us to be the best we can be.
Yeah, she'd still carry that discipline.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Coming towards the end now, sort of run out of time, sadly. But if there were obviously, hopefully, lots of, young girls listening, wanting to be Sunderland players, what would you say to them? How would you go about going from having a passion to actually one day getting the chance to play for a football club like Sunderland? Yeah,
I think for any young girl or any player, young girl, boy coming through, I think ultimately the reason you start playing football, so the reason as a 4-year-old I started playing football was because I loved it and I just played in the background, in the back garden of my brothers. I've got 3 brothers, so grew up in quite a male-dominated family, but I loved what I'd done. Whether that be in the back garden or playing against the garage at the front of your house or down the field with jumpers as goalposts, I think you have to enjoy what you do, because ultimately whether you're playing on a Sunday afternoon out on the field with your mates to playing on the national level with Sunderland, you have to enjoy it, because that's why we do it. The reason I go to training every week and the reason I go and play football on a Sunday is because I love what I do, but because I get joy out of it. So I think for every player coming through and who has aspirations to maybe come on and play for like a team like Sunderland or play on a national level, is one, you've got to ultimately remember like why you started doing it, because that will be what drives you through. That love and that passion of enjoyment of when you go out on the pitch and you get that joy, that will be the drive of what you do. And I think it goes without saying is, secondly, you've got to work hard, because it doesn't come easy. The women's game probably has a heck of a lot more obstacles to overcome compared to the men's game. You look at us, we're in what is the 3rd tier, so the equivalent of League One, yet we all do it part-time. We all have full-time jobs. We all balance careers such as working and studying. So I think without that hard work and that discipline of I'm going to put in the hours, even though I'm tired and even though I get home from work and I've got to go to the gym, you've got to work hard, because like nothing in life comes easy. So I think, any young player coming through, like just keep working hard at what you're doing. Like spend time mastering your craft, spend time putting the hours in, because the more hours you put in, that'll be reflective of kind of the level you get to. But I think beyond that, you've got to enjoy it. Like I said before, going back to what I said before, you've got to love what you do, because that will give you the passion that when you wake up on a Sunday morning and it's absolutely pouring it down and freezing cold and you don't want to go outside, that love will drive you out the door. So if any girl coming through, or even boy as well, like work hard, spend time really developing your skill, recognizing what you're good at and making that the best you can be, but always love what you do, because if you don't, you'll never continue it.
Yeah, I find that always strikes me when you're talking with female players who are sort of part-time or even professional. You'd mention a lot of the media and fans make a lot of the financial side of things and how it's unfair and there needs to be more investment. When you talk to the players, the ones who are still playing, very much like, well, that's not what I'm doing it for right now. Like, that's all great and that all comes with it, but you're here to play football. You're not here to drum up like money, which it's great, but eventually you need to remember what you actually got into the game for. Yeah,
and don't get me wrong, like every player would love to play football full time and get paid to do that. But I think you appreciate, like, even while the game's still evolving, like the women's game has changed so much in the last kind of 8 years. And that's reflective like on how much we're performing on national scale. You look back to the World Cup this summer and how well we've done. But I think there is still quite a big gulf in terms of development. You can simply go from Tier 1 Women's Super League, where every player is a full-time professional and that is their job, to the 2nd tier, which is the Women's Championship, where it's a mix. A lot of players work and they play and they get paid a bit to play football, to down to our level where you don't get paid. And it's not about the money, but you will work or you'll balance a career or a job along the side. And to think you could simply get promoted and then that changes completely. So it's an ever evolving, ever changing. Definitely going in the right direction. And don't get me wrong, like I think the more money and resource that comes into the women's game, the better it's going to become. And that's not suddenly saying pay me what the first team are getting paid for the men, because I think that's definitely an unrealistic request. But I think the more investment that can come into it, the more you're allowing female players to focus on their game rather than have to worry about, I've got a midweek game but I don't finish work till here, so I'm coming straight from work, and those kind of things that we don't moan about because it's the reality of it, but it definitely impacts on the quality that you can produce. So, definitely the more resources that come into the game, the better. And it is only a fraction of what goes in and out of the men's game. And I hate to compare it because people do. Like, you see it all over Twitter. Like, people always compare it. And I like to use the analogy of, like, you look at tennis. No one ever compares, like, Serena Williams to Rafael Nadal. Like, because you treat them both as quality in their own right. She is a class women's tennis player, he is a class men's tennis player. And I think physiologically you can never compare the women and men's game. Like, they're built differently to us. Men are built differently, like genetically differently. We can't compete with that. So I think you have to treat the women's game for its own entity in its own right. And, appreciate it for what it is. The game, everyone I've spoken to that watched the World Cup was really impressed with, like, the skill level, the speed, and it shows the game is going in the right direction. And that's only coming about because of the resource that's allowed players to focus solely on playing football and not worry about balancing a job and spinning other plates. So.
Do you find that, because obviously World Cup had that massive result, USA against Thailand, I think it was. Yeah. Do you fear that there will become a gulf where the investment in teams like, Team USA and then obviously the top flight in England football, do you think that'll actually create a gap that might be too big to overcome for teams in our position now and obviously teams in the division below?
Yeah, I think that there is always a risk that the gulf's going to open up, that it's going to be bigger. But all we've got to hope is that while the investment goes in the top level, is that it is going to trickle down and support the lower levels. So you look at, obviously, the Women's Super League getting their first headline sponsor in Barclays. Yeah. That's a heck of a lot of money that's coming into the women's game. And whilst a lot of that we'll never see, it is going to benefit, yes, the top tier, and it is going to give them prize money for winning the league, which is crazy to think to this date we've never had it for the women's, given how much the Premier League winners get. Right the way down to grassroots, getting more girls playing, giving more girls the opportunity to access it on the local level. So, yeah, there is always a risk the golf's going to open up. But from having been part of it since the Super League came about the last 7-8 years, whilst some teams will dominate and you will get those results, like I said, with the Thailand USA one, across the board, give or take, it's not on par, but everyone can really compete with everyone. And I would back ourselves as a team that if we were to get someone from the Women's Championship or the Super League in the FA Cup, that we would definitely give it our best go. Yes, the odds are against us, but there's nothing saying we can't try and compete. So I think, the golf's always a risk, but I rather there be a golf and the investment come in than no investment whatsoever, because ultimately you've gone from one Women's Super League of 8 teams to now having 2 divisions, which are give or take semi-pro, and that's only over time going to reflect and hopefully go down to the third tier, who then maybe get paid a bit so they can spend more time with football, and hopefully over time that model will develop, but it will take time. And I think the golf might be there from the top to the bottom in kind of the top 5 tiers, but in between I think there's a bit of a mix, but we're closer than people think.
No, fantastic. One final note, I didn't want to ask because I felt like I didn't want to suggest it, but you mentioned you're doing coaching at the moment. So is that something you're looking on to for the future as well? Yeah,
so at the moment, I'm doing a few different things, and I think I'll always say I'm only where I am because of the opportunities I had through football, both as a player, but through studying it and exposure through it. So I currently work full-time in football. So I've started a new job a couple of months ago as I'm a national women's football development officer for an organisation called AFC Sports. So we work in the FE sector, and we're I'm shaped around trying to get more women playing and giving more people the opportunity to develop through football. So at the moment, I'm really enjoying that. Like I said, I do love coaching, and I think one day I'd love to go into maybe a player coach role with Mel when I'm on my way out retiring. I say that now, and then obviously maybe go into a coaching role. And I love the fact that at Sunderland that's possible. Whilst I'm playing, I probably don't have the time to commit to coaching a team because game days will be the same day we play. And I was very open about it with Mel in the off-season this year that when it comes to me kind of ending my playing career, I would love to go into a coaching role. And I'm glad that whilst it might not be possible, because obviously you don't know what's going to change, I feel in a place that could be possible at Sunderland. So on that year, kind of my last year, I might go to a player coach role and then potentially progress into one of the assistant coaches with Mel. And I've spoken to her about it because I think I have to think of what's next. And that's why whilst I joined Sunderland because obviously I want to play football and I want to get the club back to where it belongs, I like the fact that I can see that kind of long career journey with them. So I'd love to go into coaching one day, but that's definitely something that once I stop playing, that would be kind of be something I've tried to focus on more. But at the moment, I'm quite happy just working in it and then playing as well. Yeah.
Keep Mel sweet.
Yeah. Play for as long as she wants me to play. So.
No, fantastic. Well, I think that's about all we've got time for. Thank you very much for coming in, and I hope that first game of the season against West Brom we get a massive attendance because it's going to be good. I think we're going to win. I think we'll be quite comfortable. Yeah,
definitely. I think firstly, obviously, thank you for taking the time to chat to us. And like, I think anyone listening, like, if you've never watched women's football, like, please, like, give us a chance. Like, do you know, if you turn up and you hate it, then so be it. If you do, tell me, and I'll take the blame for that. But yeah, definitely, it's a great opportunity, particularly about games on a Sunday. If the men are playing on a Saturday, like, why not come and watch both? And it's a great chance to kind of get into that whole one club kind of bigger Sunderland approach. So yeah, it'd be great to see some fans this year.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much.
Brilliant. No, thank you very much.